Okay, so it's Comedy Food Truck, right?
Right, yeah.
And then it's Instagram and
Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram at Comedy.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
At Comedy Food Truck.
At Comedy Food Truck. That's it, just at Comedy Food Truck.
YouTube, don't forget the YouTube channel.
Oh, and then YouTube. Yeah. And then
Subscribe
YouTube. To the YouTube. And it's Comedy Food Truck on YouTube also, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get a take.
That's fine. All right.
You're listening to the Comedy Food Truck Podcast. We talk life, food, relationships, and have fun with all of it. And now here's your host, comedian John Hill.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We have a big show tonight. Today, I should say. It is early November, which means Halloween is behind us. So hopefully some of you are still okay after Halloween. After the big Halloween.
From all the poison candy you ate?
The poison candy, the abductions, everything else. Candy. Yes. We'll explain who's in the trash can in a second. And then, of course, it's about the time of the year that most of your football teams are terrible.
Not
right?
mine.
No? Who's your team?
Rams.
Okay. Well, and how long have they been your team?
Since as long as I can remember.
Okay.
they won.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
I even hung on when they were in St. Louis.
Okay, well then not so kudos to you. Real Rams fans didn't like them when they were in
No, I wasn't happy about it.
Just kidding.
But you stayed true.
Stayed true.
I'm just playing. Hopefully by now the Lakers have won at least one game.
They did. They won last night.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
As of this recording.
The one game.
I am excited that you guys are here. We have a very, 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 what do we call it? On a special episode.
Very special episode.
Yeah. We have a guest that I will mention in just a moment. But before we do, we're going to get around and introduce the team, everybody who's here, to make your day a little brighter. And that's what we hope we do, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So to my left, and the audience is right, is...
Audience is always right.
No idea. But to my left is Jared, our tech guy. He holds the whole thing together. We're not here without Jared and Wi-Fi. That's the two things that keep us rolling. Say hello, Jared.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, and then next to Jared, today we mixed it up. What do I do here? Because normally I will introduce who I normally introduce now.
Yeah.
Are you going to position boxes? Is
yeah,
this how
to
you're
be
going to
the
do
same.
it?
Still be in the same order, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Do we need to talk about the issues we have with Scott?
I think so.
We don't have time.
Because Scott, right. Scott, our man Scott, who we used to call Gator till he up and got married, messed it all up. And then on top of that, moved out of the IE, right? And then moved into the OC.
Bougie.
Boozy, trying to act like he's got some money or something. What's up, Scott? He brought a prop, Scott, with his what is it? Tell us, Scott, first of all, say hello, Scott.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Good, except for you. Okay, I have to say this. Scott is not live in the room with us.
Yeah.
We had to roll him up on Zoom. So what are you drinking?
He's live, just not in the room.
Well, he is live.
What is it? Voss water
Voss.
in a martini glass.
Wow.
Is that a chilled martini glass?
Yes, it is.
Oh, my gosh.
Sheesh, you're so stuck up, you can't even call it Boss water. You got to call it Voss.
Wow.
What's up with that,
You
man?
get that from your neighbor? Your neighbor dropped that off?
Right.
Yes, I stole it as I got home.
Was it on the porch? You just went over and took it?
Is that all they sell at the Trader Joe's that I know you shop at now?
Trader
The
Joe's even a
99
thing?
cents only store.
Yeah. There's no AMPMs or anything anymore out there, right?
Wow.
Right.
You guys get gas from a moving oil tanker that just pulls up while you're driving. Can't have gas stations in our neighborhood.
Scott froze up.
And then, obviously, sorry.
It's awesome.
Obviously, the last cat in our, what's a group of cats? Litter? I have no idea.
It's like verbal litter.
Gaggle?
A gaggle of kittens
A gaggle.
is our man Ray.
A murder of cats?
Ray, say hello.
Hi, everybody. It's great
Hi,
to be
everybody.
here. Thanks for having me back, John.
Hey, no problem. It really wasn't up to me, but thanks for being here. And then finally, we have a guest today, and we don't do guests very much. We promise every week we're going to have more guests, and then we don't have any. And now today we actually have a guest, and I want to introduce a friend of mine who is a legend. I don't even know if I can say this, but I'm a legend in the game of comedy. No kidding. At least in our local area, but actually even abroad. Meaning, I don't know about abroad, but definitely nationally. She's done some national stuff, but Her name's Laniea. This is my friend Laniea Dominguez. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yes,
Yay.
How's
Laniea.
that? Get
Give
in
her a
there.
hand, everybody. Thank
you.
We could pipe in and the effects in the
I
after
got some.
editing some woohoos.
When you said abroad, I didn't know if that's what you were referring
I
to
was
me as.
not. I kept my mouth shut. I bit my tongue.
What are you, Frank Sinatra?
We have a broad here.
We have a broad.
We have a guest. She's a broad.
I walk in the studio. Who is this broad?
But I appreciate you said that because it's not that I don't want to be branded an IE comic. It's not a bad thing. But the only thing is I don't want to be closed in because I don't want people to think, because I have San Francisco, Utah, Chicago, Oregon. Ultimately, I want to obviously all the states and then abroad. I would like that.
Well, and actually, I wasn't going to say the IE. I was actually going to say Southern California. But even at that, you don't want to be limited to just SoCal, right? So I totally understand. And the thing about you that I love the most is, and then I want to get into some of the history of how I met you and kind of what you do and how you do what you do, is your organization. Like, she's a comic, but she doesn't just do comedy. You actually have an organization. Tell us the name of your organization.
Comedy for Causes.
Yeah, and this is the first thing that caught my eye. Well, it's the second thing that caught my eye about her. I'll tell the story about the first thing that caught my eye, but the second thing that caught my eye about her
So embarrassing.
was this organization that she has, and I've done, I don't even know how many, but more than a few shows with Miss Laniea and her organization, Comedy for Causes. Just amazing concept. I mean, it's one of those things you run across sometimes where you think, man, I wish I'd have thought of that. And she's doing too well for me to just steal it and do better than her. So,
By the grace of God, seriously, like I'm grateful because I'm smarter than some, not John.
you are well.
But I've had people call me comics in general. You know, sometimes maybe they won't wake up until around. They haven't necessarily had corporate jobs,
right?
And that's not a bad thing. But you know, when you're an entertainer, you have to switch hats whenever you become a business person, a salesperson, a marketer, communicator.
Right.
I've had other comics, you know, Johnny Flowers.
Yep.
Okay. So Johnny reached out to me. He's a comic in Orange County.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me a few years back and he said, hey sis, I want to jump on this fundraiser concept. How do I do it? And I said, it's simple. Call the animal shelter, tell them you want to produce a comedy show to raise money for their organization. And I said, book your comics, make your flyers, tell them they secure a venue, and it's like that. And he's like, wow, sis, that's, can we meet for lunch so you could explain that?
That sounds like work.
It's a classic comic response. I love it.
Because my thing is I just did.
Right. You just laid out the whole game plan.
And it's actually so simple, super simple.
Right.
But I've had people in other states too reach out to me. And so for a minute,
Interesting.
I thought about creating a franchise. Because people in other states, and then there would be rules though, because if I'm going to have my logo behind your head, your brand, your whatever it may be, you have to sign this contract that basically says you won't make me look bad, or you're out of the franchise. So
That makes sense.
There's so many opportunities for it, and
Doesn't work for Taco Bell though, because a lot of people still make Taco Bell look really bad, but and they're not
it
out.
just takes one review, and next thing you know, it's taco. Can we say hell? Because there's hell in the Bible, right?
Taco hell.
Yeah, taco hell. You know what? I don't stop eating there. I don't. And it's never a good night ever.
No.
But I don't stop.
Yeah. No, nobody stops. That's the problem.
I love how bad it is.
We all do. It's unfortunately it's our self-sacrificing mentality, but or is
Yeah.
that no, self-sabotaging?
more of a Del Taco guy myself.
Yeah,
Well,
but that
Del Taco's fries.
we call that hell taco. So
They have-
there's taco hell taco.
They have crinkle cut fries.
I do like crinkle cut fries. We're way off base now, but the point is,
This is what our show
this is
that's
what
what
happens
it's
with our
supposed
show.
to be.
It's like
9
I
minutes
like
in.
Taco
What?
Mesa.
Taco
Taco
Mesa.
Mesa.
Oh, it must be an OC
It
thing.
has to be. Yeah, he's out there
Wow.
snobbering.
$300 tacos.
Yeah, they don't even serve them on shells. It's tacos on flatbread. It's
Wow.
It's a falafel taco.
yeah,
It's not even real meat.
Falaco.
Falaco.
Yeah,
Falaco, right? Yeah, that's it. It's a falaco.
It's all vegan.
And it's vegan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
That's
I had
funny.
somebody ask me that one time. My purse. They said, "I really like your purse. Is it animal? Is it vegan?" No, it was a different one because that one's not. That's pure cow.
Is it vegan?
Pure cow.
They refer to a purse as vegan or not?
It was nauseating. I said, "I don't know," because I wasn't planning on eating it.
Right.
I didn't ask that.
I'm gonna start asking that of everything I buy.
Yeah, right.
Is
But
it
for
vegan?
me personally,
Be
my
at the car
dog.
dealership is it vegan?
Yeah.
If my dog wants to really get intimate with my purse, I know it's leather. I just mean cuddling, and smelling it. It's
Got a bunch of-
leather. It's really leather.
Bunch
Then
of-
I know it's pure.
Bunch of
Why is
baby,
my purse moving?
bunch of baby purses
That's a
running
real
around.
purse. You
What
see
is in
it?
my purse? Unzip it.
Oh
It's
my
stuck.
gosh. Oh my god.
That's wow. That's a purse dog going too far. But,
No.
it's taking too
She
many
was-
liberties.
Penelope was checking the quality of the product.
Penelope.
Wow.
That was my dog.
That's cool. So
Yeah.
the organization, though, give us the gist of what you obviously help people raise money. But what I notice is a lot of the causes that you do are types of causes that, I mean, people want to give money to. I'm sure you've probably done some other stuff that isn't quite as moving, maybe not. But everything I've ever
That's
seen
crazy
you do
too.
is pretty moving. Like do you have some examples of the causes that you've raised money for, the types of things that people are asking you to help them raise money for?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I have ran into a couple of situations where it's a cause that I didn't necessarily support. For example, this one woman, she said she needed reconstructive breast surgery. And that's what it was going to be
She
for.
did a show so that she could, okay.
well,
So she could have an enhancement surgery.
but she made it seem as though she had cancer-related issues.
Oh, okay.
But when I started doing, so my goal is one day to have actual employees that can vet these things.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
that will help with
A team.
sponsorships, another one that will help with graphics, another one that will help vet the causes.
Yeah.
But so I have had a couple occasions where it was causes I wasn't necessarily.
Sure.
But here's how it started. When I was 37, that was 2010.
Careful.
I know. No, I'm 48 now, so it happens. Keeps happening, I guess. But
Every
I was
year.
dared
Every
to
year.
try an open mic. I did. I loved it, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I worked for Inland Empire magazine, so I've been there forever. I thought, how am I going to reinvent myself at 37? And I don't want to play the game. You know, the comics have to play where they go to Hollywood, they put their name in a hat.
Yep.
To maybe be picked to do 3 minutes.
Right.
Or then you have to go in front of, like America's Got Talent, and then you have your passion scrutinized. I didn't want anything to jeopardize that. So I remember, so we were going through the recession, and my pastor was talking about, and I'd only been doing comedy for about a year. My pastor was talking about how people, because of the recession, people weren't tithing just because of obviously financial reasons.
Right.
And we do a Mexico house build every year. I haven't gone yet. I say we because I still support it. But it's an A-frame house in Mexico. And it's basically families that have lived in a box,
Right.
they got this, and that's a nice house for them. So we weren't able to do it one year. And I told Pastor, I said, what if we did a comedy show to raise money for that? And Pastor said, let's do it. And so I did. I just put together some comics for my open mic. I told them at the church, and I'd watch them, and I knew they were capable of doing clean comedy. Well, then the night of the show, my church only seats maybe 200. It's a small little place in Ranch Cucamonga. The night of the show, my pastor, we're all in the green room, me and the comics, and my pastor said, Laniea, come here. He takes me outside, and there's a line around the back of my church.
Wow.
For all these people that came for this.
That's awesome.
I will say there were a couple dollars having to be put in a curse word jar. Because I'm doing this, not for me.
Right.
I did really good. But one of the comics, so he kind of he stepped on, but it's okay. Pastor, afterwards, he said, overall, it went really well. We raised a lot of money. Yeah. And the very next day, I realized, that's what I'm supposed to do. So God,
That's cool.
I didn't have a good upbringing, and John knows a little bit about that, but if I can laugh at it,
Right.
so that's what I figured. So I was like, okay, God gave me a terrible upbringing so that, no, I'm joking.
The God gave you.
I just spun that real quick.
Right.
First time I said that. But no, it made me a survivor, and not necessarily a survivor, a thriver, like taking it to the next level. And then I was telling my pastor, I said, I want to call it causes because I don't want to be limited to one.
Right.
And then it was so crazy. I looked, comedyforcauses.com was available, comedyforcauses.net, and
That's amazing.
comedyforcauses.org.
It really is amazing that because there obviously are comedy fundraisers before Laniea entered the world, but
Yep.
but it's amazing that nobody came up with that name. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's that was the part I was like, man, I wish I'd have thought of that. Is, and we have others. There's at least 2 other guys I know locally.
Yeah.
That they do a similar thing where they produce shows and
For
different things.
fundraisers. Yeah.
Right. And so, and I know, they have their own brand, like Mel Austin, who we want to have on the show eventually, does clean.
He moved, right? Colorado?
Yeah, he's in Colorado. And so, I'm sorry, what's his thing? It's clean comedy, but
Squeaky Clean.
Squeaky Clean. Thank you. That's his brand. And then Mike Cano has, I don't know if he has a brand name, but he's definitely got, a footprint, in
Correct.
this area.
Yeah,
And
he does a lot of, and even things he doesn't post. He does things
Right.
for law enforcement, schools.
Right.
Him and Mel had a thing for a
yeah,
while,
they were doing schools.
anti-bullying.
They were doing a great job. It's just a lot of cool stuff like that. I still remember the first time I met Laniea was in an open mic that you were, I think, running, or you were performing. That's what it was. You were going to be
Was that
in
the
a
one in
show.
San Bernardino?
Yeah, but
That
I think
was
it was
so awful.
But you were listed,
Still
I
no.
feel like, as a performer, but then they had some level of an open mic. So, and I was just starting out. And I remember where I first saw you was actually at the place in Claremont.
Flappers.
Flappers.
That's the one I ran. That was the
Oh,
open
yeah.
mic
And
I
it
ran.
was I thought it was clean, if I remember correctly, the one at Flappers.
Yes.
Or was, yeah. So my first thought was, oh, this girl does clean comedy. This is cool. She produced shows. I'd like to go see her. And I saw your name in this one thing, and maybe I'll do some time. I was still kind of nervous about open mics at that point. I just started. But I said, well, at least I can come and watch. And of course, I knew going in that
It's a bar.
that a lot of open mics are, dirty and all that. But I was like, I still want to see how Laniea does. So I go
Oh, for
in.
the love.
And I
Now,
went and
mind you, I did not know. Had I known he was a pastor, literally, regardless, it's respect. I would not have gone where I did. But it's, because I got foul. It's a bar.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, I think I was the only female on the lineup.
Right.
Oftentimes that's the case. It's
Right.
a lot of men.
Right.
It's kind of a divey bar in San Bernardino. And
Okay.
all the male comics were going that direction. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And then John introduced himself to me.
Pastor John Hill.
Yeah.
I don't usually introduce myself as Pastor John Hill, actually, but I think you must
But
have
I
asked
think
me
we
what I
started
do or
talking about.
something. Yeah.
We actually got on the conversation of marriage, and I was telling you I was having a problem because my ex-husband liked watching porn,
Oh, yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I remember that I eventually told my husband. It was like 2 days after that. I said, I don't want to watch that anymore, and he goes, his chin quivered, like.
What?
What do you mean?
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I was talking to a comic who's also a pastor, and he said,
Great.
/ pastor.
because John was very clear. He said, you shouldn't have to sacrifice your value system based off of somebody else's, And that's when I told Andrew, I don't have to sacrifice my value system based off of what you want.
Wow.
Funny.
It's like a kitten calendar.
Oh my goodness, that's
It was pretty
hilarious.
awesome. And then we stopped. And we literally, and see, the sad thing is, it was getting to the point, we'd been together like 20 years. It was getting to the point that every time to get intimate, he was like, okay, let's do that. And so
Right.
I start to feel less of
Sure.
a commodity,
Yeah.
So,
That's
but
hilarious.
it was good. It made me, it empowered me.
Wow.
So
So, it
thank you for
ruined your
that.
marriage, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
John ruins another marriage.
Good
Yeah,
job.
ba-dum,
Thanks a lot.
I pride myself on my marital counseling skills. No, but I mean, I still think, as as we moved from there and watched you grow, and just like you mentioned earlier, you do talk in your routine, your bits about how you grew up and everything,
Right.
which is, I think, the most authentic way to do comedy, especially starting out. I think as guys and girls are in it longer, maybe they produce a show, they stop doing certain material, they have to start with new material, maybe they move on from that. But the most authentic is when you're in, the jokes. You're not just
Yeah.
up there doing random stuff. You're
And
actually.
no one could really, is no one the proper term? So, you know how we hear of comics stealing comics jokes?
yep.
It's a thing.
Right.
They can't really take mine.
Right.
Which that's why I really like that my voice is my story,
Yeah.
my walk. I mean, I have some jokes that are very edgy. One of them is an abortion joke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not terrible, but I was 16 when I got pregnant, and my mom was really violent. My mom used to I remember her specifically telling me and my sisters, if you ever get pregnant, you'll lose it because I'll beat your backside.
Your
Wow.
donkey.
Yeah, your donkey. So my mom was really violent, and I was honestly scared if she knew. I didn't know what would happen. So I did contemplate an abortion because I was afraid of.
Sure.
Right.
Not because I don't care.
No, I know. Yeah.
I mean, I was scared. And so I joke about how my son survived that. And it turns into a funny joke, but these are based off of life stories.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Right, right.
I say that my mom lives with me, but then I say lives is kind of a liberal term because she's in a box in my bedroom. But hey, and it's really funny because I was talking to, Joe Albert?
I've heard. Yeah, I know Joe. Yeah.
He books shows.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day because he said, because I've done a couple of his shows, and he said, I'll be honest. He says, you're funny. He said, but the church show that we did, they thought your humor was just a little too dark. And I said, I could almost bet you, though, Jesus would have laughed. because he liked my kind of people.
Right.
But it does get a little dark. I mean, but then again, that's just what I'm from. I mean, my mom was married 10 times. I came in at number 7. She passed away from drugs, so I have my mom's urn in my bedroom from drugs and my sister's urn in my bedroom. And my mom was 50, my sister was 49.
Wow.
It was funny because I was telling somebody the other day, I said, something about, well, they could always have it worse. And I go, oh, God, I guess not. Because you'll get any worse than a box, right?
Yeah. That's great. That's good.
Were you guys on a milk route?
On a milk route?
Yeah.
Scott.
Wait, okay, you need to explain that to me. Wait, there was a milkman?
So here's
Was
the
there
thing.
boxes?
Here's the
What
thing.
was happening?
Here's the
Just
thing.
your mom the 10 times.
Scott's folks got, if I understand correctly, I think Scott's folks got divorced, right?
Right.
Here's what I know. Scott's stepdad was a milkman. Now tell me that's not just inherently funny. That Scott's
'cause I wouldn't have believed it.
stepdad is the milkman.
Oh, it gets better.
But wait, before or after?
See, this is what we don't know.
This is the complicated part.
Right.
is the gray
did
area.
you or the delivery?
This is the gray
or
area.
the bottles?
But then,
It gets
okay,
better.
but this is the
Was
thing.
there another dad?
This is the thing, though. I don't know, but what I do know is Scott tells us that then, for some period of his childhood, preteen years, whatever, he went with his dad and delivered the milk while his dad disappeared to parts unknown. So
I
Scott-
drove the truck.
Scott's left in the truck, listening to the flashers. Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Where's my dad?
In the meantime, there's a bunch of like Scott replicas out there.
in the
right?
neighborhood, yes.
There's female Scots, male
keeps running
Scots,
into,
right?
keeps running
Twin
into
Scots.
kids. It's like, man, what in the world?
Your brother was brothers and sisters are all along that route.
Well, he's obviously Guy
Right.
Fieri's brother, so
Oh,
we get,
I love that.
Yeah.
Dude,
He is.
nailed it.
He is. Yeah.
I love
I don't know if I have
that.
any brothers and sisters. That's the
Well,
truth. That's
but
the honest
Wow.
thing.
You
As far as I
shouldn't.
know, I'm the only child. But hey,
As far as you know.
Yeah,
as
that's
far as
what
I know.
But we know the milk got delivered every day, so
Milk got delivered, and
there's,
then
there's a whole section of Stockton that looks just like you.
that is a
Straw
trip.
Street.
You're
whole
lucky.
neighborhood.
I'm jealous because that's a cool thing to have.
and
Trade you.
his real dad had he had a TV show, right?
Yeah.
And it was what kind of TV show?
Well, it was back in the early 70s, and it was a show that showed, housewives at that time didn't really work much, I guess, and so it was to how to do things around the house and do crafts and all kinds of stuff. It was like
There you go.
a current day HGTV type of a thing.
Right.
What was
That's
the show
actually
called?
cool.
What
Was
was
it a
it
reality
called?
show? No.
It was called The Daring Decorator.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
God forbid, what an edgy woman.
Daring
Right?
decorator.
Ooh, I'm going to pull out the foil. Oh my gosh, it's going to get crazy up in here.
Cover the windows with it.
Right? How are we going to rip this saran wrap? Yeah.
Ding
Could you
dong.
imagine?
Who's here? Oh, it's the milkman.
And his sidekick, the daring
It's a
decorator.
kid.
The milkman is here while I'm watching The Daring Decorator.
It was
So funny how
quite
the
the
milkman
upbringing.
got thrown into being like the other dad, you
Yeah,
know, right?
Right.
All the time.
Right. No,
So-
it's true, but so there has to be some truth to it, right? I mean, it's how it came to
Well,
be.
but then again, there's a pool boy. There's lots of
Sure.
different.
Well, that's true, but
You
that
know.
the pool boy is more of a fantasy. The milkman's for real.
Yeah, but then again, that's true. Well, and chances are milkman had a dad bod, so which would make it even more real.
Yeah, you
Because
bet.
pool boy typically had his shirt off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or there's the butcher, Sam the butcher, and the Brady
Yeah.
Bunch coming
Yeah.
to see Alice.
Yeah,
Right.
but you know, actually, they were both equally unattractive.
They were.
That's true.
Because I was just thinking, I wouldn't have Sam. Oh, but then
Wow.
again, neither. I'm just
Wow.
unattractive people need loving too, right?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
But it doesn't mean you have to sentence them to another unattractive person.
This is the best you're going to do. Just settle. Just settle.
No. Sometimes you should. Sometimes
But
you
that's-
should.
that's like-
Sometimes you should be grateful that person liked that gap.
That's
Wow.
You know?
if that gap did it for me.
I'm telling you, well, because I come from a long line of gaps. I mean, it's more so just no teeth. Because I joke about that. No one in my family has them. But
I know
it's
you
just
do.
lots of gaps.
That's hilarious. No, I think one of my, I'd probably get in trouble for admitting this, but one of the jokes I do like, but partially because of how real it is when you talk about all that growing up and a lot of men in and out of the house and all of that. and then your first time to be intimate with someone, and then they do this thing like, "Who's your daddy?" and you say, "I don't know." And you're like real about it. It's like, I really don't know.
I know. He's
Wow.
like, I'm right here. No.
Oh, wow. The gap I was talking about is in my DNA. It's in my genes. There's gaps in my
That
genes.
takes a whole new line of that clothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. The gap.
I'm the original gap.
The gap. We can't
Gosh,
connect me to
that's
anybody.
a good point, because I never thought about that from another person's perspective. I just
Right.
know of it from me, but there's multiple ways I can go with that. Like if I did
Yep.
say no, I'm being serious, because he's all trying to
Yeah.
still get busy with me, and I'm like,
Right.
no, listen, let's talk about that.
Can you help me?
You just brought it up, which
Right.
makes me now I want to talk.
Let's unpack
Right.
this.
Yeah.
But then I
Go
get
on.
a little bit further, and this is where I joke about being accidentally racist. I play with this because Sean Williams, my black friend,
Yes.
who stamped this for me,
Yes.
he's the one that gave me the idea.
Which makes it all okay.
It does.
There's one
does.
guy. yes.
Seal
Anytime
of
I want to
approval.
do a black joke, remotely black,
Right.
I call Sean. Like, for example, I asked Sean,
Run
I
this
said,
by
what does it do whenever, what is it called whenever, black women do they're moving their neck around? He goes, you mean chicken necking? I go, is that what it's called? He goes, you can't say that. you can never say that. And I was like, well, what do I call it then? Moving your neck like that? That's all you can say.
That's all he would give you permission.
Yeah,
He's like,
that's it.
we're not giving you that much permission here.
But in the
Sounds
joke, I
cool.
joke about how the guy, I said, because the guy said, who's your daddy? I don't know. And then I get
Right.
emotional. And I said, I don't know if you could hear the black dialect, in his voice. He
Right.
sounds black. It's because he was black. And then he looked at me and said, I don't know either. And then we just hug and we talk about Maury.
So he could have actually just said, "Who's my daddy?"
Oh, right? I don't know either. Then we both could have been like, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? No,
Right.
who's your daddy?
Right. That's
We
funny.
ain't got no daddy. I'll be your daddy.
Actually, that could be a good joke if he said that. Who's your dad? And you say, I don't know. Who's yours? I don't know either. And then you both just weep. I mean,
Wow.
the funny thing though is it's funny, but what I
break down.
and I know. I mean, honestly,
It is. It
I know
became
there's
emotional.
I know there's people who go to our church that are listening and they're like, dude, really, Pastor? That's funny. I'm saying this though, and I mean this, but it's the authenticity of that you actually are making a joke from what is real pain. I mean, it's
Something
a real.
could have. I have 3 sisters. We
Yeah.
all have different dads.
Yeah.
My oldest, which was my world, is the one that passed in 2014. The other 2 was in foster homes. So my oldest was raised by my mom's parents.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 were taken away from my mom when they were like 5 and 6. And then I was raised with my mom, but I stayed with friends and family throughout. But my other sister's in prison. I haven't seen her for over 20 years. I take her calls now because I know I'm the baby, but my older sister would have wanted me to take her calls. So that's the only reason I do it. But my point is, see what it could have done. I could have obviously went, and I would have been justified if all of a sudden I ended up in the system.
Right.
Maybe in jail, promiscuous, doing drugs,
Right.
whatever, in a box.
Right.
It all could have been justified because I did have a really, really ugly. I didn't have the odds were against me.
Right.
In other words,
Your
So-
environment was not conducive.
and I didn't. There was nothing. I tried everything. When I was 14, I tried to give myself up for adoption. So I called the newspaper and I gave her this, my spiel, and she's like, "Well, that'll be $43," and I'm like, "I don't have that." And she goes, "Are you okay? Are you serious?" And I goes, "Did you just hear me?"
Yeah.
And sometimes it does kind of upset me that not the system didn't let me down, but there were some people that no one necessarily came in to
Yep.
say, hey.
Yep.
But I did pick up on some things. My mom was arrested multiple times, and I remember this time I was 12. The cops came to the house and picked her up, and they were cuffing her and putting her in the back of the car, and I was crying at the door because they're taking my mom. And then this female cop came up to me, and she put her arm around me, and she says, "Honey, I know you're scared. It's only going to be for a couple of days, And I said, I was crying, but I told her, I said, I know what she did was wrong. And I know this is what happens. I said, but it just makes me sad, because you're taking my mom away. And she said, you have a good head on your shoulders. And she says, and just don't forget that. So every now and then somebody of that caliber would say that to me and make me think, maybe I am, maybe something.
Right.
So that's when I figured I was adopted.
But
because I'm smarter than
right,
them. You
because
know.
you didn't come from that. Yeah. You didn't come from that ilk.
Laniea,
Yeah.
Did you happen to have any milk delivered to your house in the late early 80s?
Interesting you say that because yes, we did.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh man.
It was actually what happened was I was 13 and we were being evicted. So we always lived everywhere for 90 days.
Okay.
Because that's how long you could stretch out an eviction. My mom never paid rent, never paid utilities. Wow. So she'd always turn them back on, though. After 5 p.m., she'd turn the power back on. Or she'd give me the extension cord, say, Nene, could you go ask the neighbors? But when I was 13, we were being evicted. And I told my mom, I came home and she was always high. And when I came in the house, she was on the chair and she was kind of nodding. And I said, Mom, we have 2 weeks. We got to be out of here in 2 weeks. She says, don't worry. I'll figure this out. And I thought, well, maybe she won't. So I took the bike. I rode my bike around the neighborhood and I found a house that was empty. I went inside and I saw there were 2 teenagers making out in the living room. And I asked them, do you know who has this house? And she says, no, but there's a note or there's something on the counter. It was a water bill. And I remember my mom telling me one time the utility companies know owners. Right. So I called the water company, asked who the owner was, got the name of the owner, called the owner. His name was George Logan. And
wait, how old are you? 13.
Wow.
And I called him from the gas station, Sinclair gas station in Garden City, Idaho. And I was crying. And I go, my mom and I went by your house and it's empty. And it's really nice. We're gonna get. And he's like, slow down. He said, why don't you and your mom meet me at the house tomorrow and let's talk. So I went home and I told my mom and she's like, whatever, she didn't. I mean, how much can you believe a 13-year-old?
Right.
So the next day we met him and he rented the house to me and my mom.
Wow.
We lived there for, I think the rent was $275 and my mom was getting cash aid from welfare and it was $250. And my mom's like, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. But the landlord, George, he said, we'll work it out. And he did deliver milk because turns out he was the truant officer for all of Boise.
Holy smokes.
So after he would go to certain schools, they would give him the extra milk and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he would bring it to our house. So he'd always bring extra.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was really cool. And it's cool because my mom I'd been to 15 different schools before 8th grade.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm not dumb, but I didn't retain a lot of information.
Yeah, you never
It wasn't
stay anywhere long enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday and I said, oh my gosh, I did not know this because I was watching Band of Brothers. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
So I was tripping out because I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like our soldiers were there fighting at the same time the Germans and the Jews and Hitler. Wow, that was an ironic coincidence. And my friend said, what? You know they were the same. What do you mean? No, because there was Hitler and the Holocaust, and then there was us and World War II. He said that's what. Anyway,
You're connecting the dots. You're connecting.
I am.
Wow.
So I asked my daughter the day before yesterday. I said, what year? Okay, because she's giving me a hard time about not knowing what is that? History. And I said, okay, tell me this. What year did you guys do this? And she says 10th grade. And I said I was pregnant. Not to say that anybody should do that, if they're not wanting to learn.
Right.
But that could be a reason why I didn't. I was either pregnant or breastfeeding. So, and I was able to go to prom, but that's because I had a sitter.
I'd get a sitter for prom. Well, nothing messes up the Hitler chronology more than breastfeeding. So.
I'm telling you, there's so many things I didn't know.
So
All comes back to milk.
So I could see
does.
I could see you trying to explain this to somebody, like trying to explain history to somebody, and them going, no, and you just shouting out, I was breastfeeding. That's your response.
I was doing the organic. I was just trying here.
That's
and then
funny.
this
I have a
happened,
good reason.
and then this happened. None of this makes sense. Okay, look, I was breastfeeding.
Do you know how hard it is to take notes at the same time? I got the football hold of my son. We didn't have a phone. Gosh, no cell phones.
Oh,
No.
that's awesome. Well, it just makes it more powerful, I think, what you do today because of the Comedy for Causes and what you're able to do to help folks and be able to be a part of that. And because of your background, because of your story. And I know, too, you've given lots of, comics work and some of that kind of stuff, too.
Thanks for listening to the Comedy Food Truck Podcast. Hey, this was only the first half of our interview with Laniea Dominguez. Be sure to come back next week to hear the second half of her incredible story. Until then, have a great week.